What's up, guys? JayzTwoCents here. We're gonna build a computer today. But we're gonna do it a little differently than normal. Usually we'll just kind of talk about the parts, and then we'll B-roll assemble it, and then show you guys what it looks like when it's all done. But many of you have kind of, I don't want to say complained, but have shared your opinions that you missed the days when I used to just kind of show you as I was doing it, and just kind of talking about it and stuff. So we're gonna pull back some of the production value a little bit while we produce a PC. Today's video is brought to you by CableMod and the CableMod Configurator. If you want custom cables for your computer and you want them custom made with your colors and your choices and your configs, you can do that on the CableMod Configurator. They support all major brands of PSUs, both modular and semi-modular, and you can have cable extensions made. But the best part is, previously they offered aluminum cable combs in only black and white, but now you can get them in various colors. So if you want to take your system to the next step and really make it pop, get some custom cables and make them your way with the CableMod Configurator. You can start playing around with that by using the link in the description below. So when Ryzen first launched, I had built an 1800X system that had rigid tubes, and it had like SLI tight nexus and all that sort of stuff. But what I'm gonna do today is something that I've not really done before, and I kind of want to see how this turns out. We are doing kind of like the best mainstream PC that you can build for AMD. So I'm going above and beyond. The idea of budget and bang for buck and value is pretty much out the window. We are just going with kind of like the best of the best. So that's why we're using a MSI X570 Godlike motherboard, which is seriously overkill for what we need to be doing with our 3900X. This is, one of the reasons why we're using this motherboard is because we're kind of preparing for the 3950X, which has 4 more cores and 8 more threads. So we definitely want a beefy, robust, overbuilt VRM, which is what we're getting here with the MSI Godlike. We're also gonna be using the MSI 5700 XT. Now this is a reference card. The custom cards are not out yet, but because we are gonna be water cooling it, I'm perfectly fine with doing this. Now I know some of you are gonna be going, Jay, if you're building the best of the best, why don't you use a Radeon 7? Well, a couple of reasons. The Radeon 7 is no more. If you see them out there, they're just leftover inventory. They're not producing them anymore. I believe AMD's kind of stepped away from the whole idea of HBM2, and there probably will be some higher stuff coming from Navi, but later on. So the idea here is we're kind of just the ultimate AMD fanboy today, and we're building a PC with the latest that's possible available for that. So as I mentioned, we also are using the R9, this one, the 3900X, yeah, that's it. But obviously we're not gonna be using the stock cooler in here because we are using a lot of water cooling parts. We'll get to the water cooling parts in a second though. For memory though, we do have 32 gigabytes of Trident Z Neo. This is the latest Trident Z available from G.Skill that is basically optimized and validated for Ryzen. So it's got pretty aggressive DOCP settings. I'm not gonna be using all 4 sticks though. I'm just gonna be using 2 for 16 gigabytes. Maybe we'll do all 4, I don't know. RAM's easy to take out, right? 32 gigs I think for this is extremely overkill, but so is a lot of the parts, so why the heck not? In terms of storage though, we are going with the ultra-fast Corsair MP600. This is one of the first PCIe Gen 4 NVMe drives, so we get up to 4,950 megabytes per second. And then we've got the Obsidian 500D. Now this is kind of a throwback to one of the first custom builds I did on my channel where I used the 900D. That was probably the case that I got most nerdy over when I bought it. I wanted it so badly. I saved up the 250 bucks or whatever it was to go and get it, drove all the way to Micro Center, didn't even fit in the back of Nick's car because we took his GTI, it didn't fit, so the hatch was like tied down. But we're gonna kind of bring back that sort of nostalgia today with the 500D. Now in terms of water cooling stuff, obviously we've got a plethora of Hydro X stuff sent over here by Corsair. Oh, and for power supply, obviously RM1000X, as you can see right here. We've got a custom cable set being made to match the theme of this. Haven't decided entirely what color theme I wanna go with yet. If you couldn't tell by now, this is a multi-parter because it's easy for us to do single part videos when I just build it and then show you guys pretty B-roll. But since you want to go along for the ride and hear some of the rationale and the thought process that goes into these builds and this planning, we do it in multi-parters. So I know that's very Linus-esque. Speaking of Linus, you can get FreshBooks today. No, since we are kind of doing that concept, I guess, of multi-parters, you just have to live with it. I've got 2 different radiators here. an XR7 360 and an XR5 360. These are just different thicknesses of the same radiator. I've got these here because I don't know yet what I'm gonna do. Part of this video is about the planning. In terms of the water block, we are running the XC7 RGB. This is both compatible with Intel and AMD, so since we're on AM4 socket, that's why we chose this guy. XT5 RGB reservoir pump combo. So I've got more parts coming from Corsair to kind of complete this build because I didn't have everything I needed. So that's one of the reasons why you're seeing a multi-parter. But in order to control all those fans and all the RGB and have it route cleaner, I guess, without wires everywhere, we are gonna be using the Commander Pro. I've seen this case in person before at like Computex and stuff. It just looks smaller than I remember it. So the nice thing about the Obsidian is it's got glass in the front, big vents on the side to let air in, so there's gonna be plenty of airflow there. I'm not too concerned. Because I don't wanna be working around this screw just keeps the hinge from coming up. There you go. And then now we can just slide this up like that. Does working on tempered glass facing the edge of a table seem like a bad idea? It's a manual.
Wow. Oh,
I know. I don't want to delay this anymore by breaking something.
So it doesn't come off.
Good to know. It's sturdy. Built real tough. So I don't think I'm gonna front mount this radiator because I don't have a lot of room in the front. So if I put the radiator there plus the fan thickness, I don't think I'll have enough room for the reservoir. Oh, I can't even fit a 360 up top. That changes things. Now I need to see how much room I have with this motherboard. I'll pop this one off for now. I love how this motherboard has a full-size headphone jack. Dude, this board barely fits in there, holy moly. We might have plenty of room actually, because the cables go through there. Let me put some screws in this. I mean, it does no harm to mount the motherboard like right away, because that's the stuff you're gonna have to work around. Because we are dealing with the Gen 4 PCIe, I think we should use the Gen 4, because I believe this motherboard came with a card. I believe it has room for 2, plus there's already three spots on the motherboard for M.2, which means you can have up to like 5 M.2s in this motherboard. Dude, all NVMe storage, like 10 terabytes.
And then like RAID 0, the motherboard, and then...
You'd need like a 40 gigabit LAN just to move files without choking it. How does this filter come off? I'm telling you, almost positive it just pops off.
So you're 2 for 2 about things that you think can pop off.
Well, I don't need this. I don't need this though because this is going to be exhaust. Okay, well, you know what? I guess it's just proving that you don't have to take anything really apart. So a single 280 radiator I know is going to be plenty. I mean, I know that for a fact. Ooh, pretty. Okay. So that would go all, oh, there's so much more. There's so much room for that. It's plenty of room. I feel like this build is just more deserving of a 240 or 280. There's only one way to see if this is gonna fit, right? But that's why I'm showing the rawness of how I do this, because this is the part that people miss. This is the part where people like being able to see the thought process that goes into this. Planning like this will save you so much time later on. And it kind of goes to show that even though I do this, I've done this hundreds of times, how you still you can't just grab pieces and go. You've really got to think it through. I don't think I'm gonna be able to run that thick radiator though. So I want to try this thin one first, which I'm pretty sure a 30 mil thick rad is gonna be plenty for this. I really do. So what I'm doing now is they give you these screws, long and short, that fit through. So the shorter ones are for if you're just mounting it through the fans to the rad, and then the rad gets mounted like on the other side. So it's just rad to fan. But because we have to go rad to fan, but through this metal plate, the other one's like a couple millimeters longer. This is where it's really nice though, that I can mount it to this plate and then mount the plate separately. So it's like, okay, I need to take the rad out real quick. It's 2 screws instead of having to undo all the fans and all the rads. Modular concepts in 2019 are just such a time saver. Okay, so what I'll normally do here is I'll just sort of go caddy corner on each of the fans to get them locked into position, but leave them loose. That way you can sort of move this around if you need to. And then once you have at least 2 screws in each fan, then you can add the other the other screws and tighten it down. I tend to put the fittings on the top wherever possible because getting air out of the radiators in a vertical mount like this is easier with the fittings on the top because the air can make it out. Otherwise, if you're like this, the air can get trapped up in here. But fortunately, this tank design is pretty nice. It's tapered, which helps the air have less corners to stick on. Air can get trapped in a corner real easy, but if it's kind of like curved, then the air just kind of keeps going. So I would have probably been able to mount this in either direction and been fine. But since I have the room to do it, might as well try. So let's see how much room we do truly have here and whether or not we can use the thicker rad. So I don't know if I want to do a vertical mount in the GPU. I guess I just have to wait. I'll probably go standard traditional mount. But here's the thing. This reservoir is not huge. I might do the typical thing I always do, which is mount it to the radiator. But I mean, the radiator makes such a convenient mount, you know what I mean? So it's got an inlet tube on the top, which is perfect. So I can return from the rad to the top of the pump, which always makes that super simple. And then I might even still have room to do a top 280 if I wanted. So now I'm gonna take that back out and see about mounting it up. I know I kind of stick to a pretty standard like layout. And some people who show me pictures of their builds are extremely creative. I kind of just go with what I know works for me, you know? The thing is, because these come with brackets, your radiator makes a pretty good mount in itself, right? And I'd have to drill holes to try and mount it down here. I don't think it would be very straight. I don't want to go there because it would interfere with the rad, and I've got these plugs still that have to come through there. So I feel very comfortable just mounting it like right there. Ah, temperature probe. That'd be neat. For the first time, I'll be able to actually see what the temperature, loop temp is. Nice thing is you can adjust it up and down. Like you have to mount it to the screws it's gonna line up. I mean, you have no choice. It's gonna mount on those two or those two, right? I mean, up there, that ain't gonna work. But you at least have this much play on the height adjustment on it. So you can get it exactly where you want it. So when the tubes come out, you can kind of get it lined up. I guess it's sort of the idea there. Another thing that's kind of cool too about these radiators that I want to show is if you look in the holes, you'll see how there's like a solid plate in there. That's because there's a piece of metal that keeps you from gouging into the radiator if you go too deep. So that's kind of nice. Old school radiators didn't have that. You could just go right through and just puncture a row and not know it until you turn it on. Whoa. Okay, so we definitely have to do like all my wiring first, I think. You know, I might mount it on the very bottom and then put it on the highest point, because then I can get a little lower. Okay, you want to talk about like things that are you want to talk about things that are tight. But the nice thing is with it down low like that, you can still see the 24 pin that we're gonna have made, right? The custom. That's so close to the grommet. I might have to like have the 24 pin come from the top, which would be different. It's really nice, but I'm probably gonna spray paint it black. Because like I said, I'm not going chrome fittings or nickel plating. I'm going black. I want to black out this case as much as possible, like the stuff in it. All right, so we ran down to AutoZone and got ourselves just some engine enamel because it dries fast. It's flat black. So because this is like a smooth nickel plated, like a black chrome kind of a plated deal, we've got to scuff this up just so that the paint has something to stick to. And we're gonna kind of do like a degreaser on it, and then we're just gonna paint it. And we're gonna go and do that now so that it has time to dry. We're not gonna get a whole lot done today though, because we just wanted to see how the basic fitment was gonna go. I know this kind of, to some people might seem like a waste of a video, but you guys a lot of you have said that you wanna see this process again. You wanna see how the thought, forms into a computer. Well, we're scuffing this up because if you don't, then the paint won't stick to it very good because it's such a smooth surface. Go down to 400. The problem with the nickel plating is it's inherently very smooth. There we go. I just got a little degreaser thingy while I was there at AutoZone. Oh, that smells so bad.
Wait, what?
It just smells gross.
Oh.
It's like a urinal cake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's all over my hands. I'll go wash my hands real quick. That'd be a hell of a fight, right? What happens if Chuck Norris killed Keanu Reeves' dog?
What? Oh my
Think about that. Now what?
I can't even.
I feel like it would be Infinity War.
Yeah, yeah, that's the real Infinity War right there.
All right, I think we got this cleaned up pretty good. Okay, let's let that dry real quick. That's the thing I love about this paint. Oh my God, it dries so fast. I bet you this is already like, yeah. Especially in the direct sunlight. See? So I love this paint. See, if I dust it, it gives it kind of a texture. All right, so we'll let that dry in the sun and we'll come back to it. Let's eat lunch because we're fat. All right, so now we're back from lunch and I painted this up with about 3.5-ish, 4 coats of my dusted matte black. As you can see, this is a much better match to the blackout build that I want to do. So let's go ahead and get this sucker reattached. And then let's go ahead and see how it looks, I guess. I want to be super careful with it because I don't want to scratch it because it is just paint. It ain't powder coat or anything like that. And yeah, I know the reservoir looks all weird. That's because I have a plastic, there's like plastic wrapped around it to protect it. I'm not taking that off until we're ready to finish this up. I don't want it getting scratched. I feel like every build I ever do, it ends up being pump and res mounted to rad. But in mid-tower cases, it's not a lot of places you can put them, you know? Yeah. Look at that, that's just like a chunk of stuff right there. Chunko stuff. Now let's get it in here. This is the worst part of any build, obviously. It's just wire management. That's why LTX even had a blind wire management booth. All right, let's do the CPU block now. So the nice thing about this XC7 block is the fact that it's black. I mean, they have a silver and black, but see, that's just gonna continue that theme. Oh, I need to paint this too. While that's drying, I can still prep the board. We have to take off the standard clip retention system that AMD has, which I feel is extremely obsolete. I've ruined motherboards back in the day because of it. You told me a story where you ruined one because of it. Yep. That was before they had the little side pieces to keep the screwdriver from slipping off, because it even shows you like use a screwdriver to push down, like with a flathead. So Corsair uses its own backplate. It's got a rubber standoff to keep you from grounding anything out. And it's one that works with both AMD and Intel. So that's kind of nice. So with Intel, you got to make sure that the 3 holes are lined up with the 3 kind of socket retention screws on the back. AMD, you don't have to do that. You can just put it either way because there's nothing behind the socket really. Make sure you use the included plastic washers so you don't ground anything on your board. This board is pretty trace free around the actual holes itself, but I don't know if that's gonna be the case for yours. So make sure that yours, make sure you're using them. So I guess the next thing I've got to do though is actually put my CPU in there, huh? CPUs usually perform better when they're actually in the computer. All right, so we got the standoffs in there and I don't have to do anything with the paste because I'm gonna try out this honeycomb paste they've got pre-applied on here. But I do have to put my bracket on that we painted nice and black, which I think matches better and probably should be that way out of the box, but I digress. That's just my opinion. All right, so we got one shot at this before we have to reapply paste, and I don't want to do that. So I feel like I should have painted these caps now because they're the same color, but there's enough shiny in this build still.
Yeah, like little accents.
Yeah, because it kind of matches the brackets. So I actually did this wrong. I had the springs just sitting on there, but there's like this cup. I thought it went just that way, but there's a cup for the spring to sit in, which I guess keeps it from sort of like binding or sticking out. I think it also allows you to stop under the right tension so you don't tighten it down too far. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that back as per the instructions. And then our CPU is installed. This is where like the white on the RGB component is almost like clashy. I can't turn it black and I can't turn it gray. So I'm thinking like maybe a dim red. I don't know what color the board lights up. I think some of the lights on the board are red. All right, let me test the length now of that graphics card, because that's one thing I didn't do considering that reservoir is like right there. Woo! Oh my. So it's touching the cooler, but it's the part of the cooler that's gonna come off. Yeah. You see how it like tapers outward? Because I mean, I could technically put it in that slot too if I wanted, right there. It would be more centralized, because that's a 16X as well. I think I might put it right there, and I think I might still go horizontal. And this is why I left the little protective cover on, because it pushes on there. So I think I might just have them come straight back and then go into that hole right there. So, all right, I think that's about as far as we're gonna get today. This is basically what you guys asked for. to see the mess happen, literally. And this is just planning, man. Lots and lots and lots of planning. The next part's gonna obviously include getting the block on here once we get that installed, loop planning, putting in our fittings, potentially doing a top radiator or not. I do need to put a rear exhaust fan on there as well. But that's, I mean, building a system like this isn't that hard. I mean, the idea behind this build isn't like, let's do a Post Malone-esque build. I just think this is something an enthusiast would build, quite honestly. In fact, I want to go ahead and just mount this in here now so it can just be a part of the parts. It's already in here. I'm not looking for it. Like, hey, where'd that 5700 XT go? I hate that when that happens. But anyway, I hate when I lose my 5700 XTs and my big old stack of Titans. And the idea behind these builds and the reason why I take you along for the ride is you can see sometimes the end result is not as easy to get to as you might have thought. Doesn't matter if you built one system or 50 systems, there are always things that pop up, things that kind of are unforeseen. And I think I really lucked out too by the length of this card and where that reservoir is. I was not, let's just say there are builds that I cannot change the card or anything in because I used a shorter card than normal. And I'm like, hey, I should put a bigger, oh, I can't because it impacts. For the wiring, I'm probably gonna end up just doing, something along the lines of like a monochromatic. So like a black with like a gray and maybe even like a carbon, because you can get carbon tubes. So that would match some of the like gunmetal-y colors like the heat pipe and stuff. So anyway, I need you guys to sound off. Do you want me to do some like fun stuff with the tubing, or do you want to just be kind of clean? I don't know yet what color fluid I'm going with. I'm probably just gonna do a distilled water, if I want to know the truth. No fluids that can fall out, nothing that can stain. And I'm debating possibly even doing like some sort of a carbon fiber tube. I just don't know if they make 14mm carbon fiber tubing, so I gotta look it up. But there's a lot of fun stuff we can do with this, and I'm kind of looking forward to this. This can also be a drain right here. I don't know if the valve will fit though. I guess I could do a 90 down and a valve right here, but that's perfect for a drain as well. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys stick around for the next part on this because I do think this is going to be a fun build. And that's why we're shooting. I spit out my gum. Oh, it went right over the trash can. All right, that's fine.
Really?
It was all.
You were like 2 feet.
The trash can was right here, and it went. So we ran down to Home Depot. No, we didn't go to Home Depot. I'm just so used to saying that. We went to Lowe's. No. Shut up.